conjunction with the visiting professor visit program to the Faculty of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, Universiti Tun Hussein on Malaysia. This is a 2-hour knowledge sharing session, more or less, Prof, followed by a 30-minute Q&A session. Hence, should you have any questions or concerns, you can write them down in the chat room or ask the questions later in the Q&A session. Before we begin, allow me to introduce our speaker. Professor IR Dr. Ismail Musirin obtained Bachelor of Electrical Engineering in 1990 from UC Technology Malaysia, Master of Science in Pulse Power Technology in 1992 from University of Strathclyde, United Kingdom, and PhD in Electrical Engineering from University Technology Mara or UITM in 2005. He is currently a professor of Power System at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering UITM and headed the Power System Operation Computational Intelligence Research Group. He has authored 2 books with over 350 papers in international index journals and conferences. He is also an international journal reviewer for REE Transactions, Elsevier Science, WCS, John Wiley, IET, and some other publishers. He has chaired more than 20 international conferences since 2007. To date, he has delivered keynote speeches at Cambridge University, United Kingdom, Dubai, Korea, and Malaysia. He has also been given opportunity to evaluate research grants at the national and international levels. His research interest includes artificial intelligence, optimization techniques, power system analysis, renewable energy, distributed generation, and power system stability. He is a professional engineer and a senior member of International Association of Computer Science and Information Technology, a member of Artificial Immune System Society, and member of International Association of Engineers, Hong Kong. To date, he has been appointed as the visiting professor at UTM Parit Raja, UTM Pagoh, and Lincoln University. He is also one of the panel experts for University Malaysia Pahang, besides being appointed as the external examiner for the bachelor degree programs at Lim Kok Wing University and Lincoln University. He's also being given the opportunity by the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia as the research grant assessor for FRGS, PRGS, TRGS, and LRGS. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, join me to welcome Professor IR Dr. Ismail Musirin to deliver his talk. Okay, silakan Prof.
Can you allow me to share, Dr. Sharil?
Not
share my slide, yeah. I cannot share my slide.
Dr. Tay. Dr. Tay, please. Dr. Tay. Dr. Tay is host.
The host will disable participant to screen sharing.
Shall we wait for Dr. Tay?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Yes.
Wait a minute, Prof.
Okay, no problem.
Prof, dah boleh share screen tak?
Okay, thank you. Okay. Can you see my slide now?
Yeah.
Can?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bismillah. Thank you very much, Dr. Sharil. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good afternoon to ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, thank you very much to the Faculty of Electrical Electronics Engineering, UC Tunisian on Batu Tun Hussein on Malaysia, Batu Bahad Johor, Pak Raja Batu Bahad Johor for inviting me to share my little knowledge on optimization techniques and applications in power system research in conjunction with my visiting professor visit, which is via the online mode. We have a very fruitful discussion since this morning. So this afternoon, I am given the opportunity by the Secretariat to share my knowledge. First of all, thank you very much to all of you for making your time to be with us this afternoon, especially to the management of Faculty of Electrical Electronics Engineering, UTHM Batu Bahad Johor, our respected Chairman Dr. Muhammad Shahril. Ladies and gentlemen, I also share with you the link through the FB and this Zoom to my postgraduate student in UITM Shah Alam. So you can see that maybe you can see some names which are a bit unfamiliar to you. So they maybe they are my students. All right. So my name is Ismail bin Musirin. So a bit correction. So originally I was from Faculty of Electrical Engineering, but this year in March we have merged our Faculty of Engineering, all the 4 Faculty of Engineering. So now we have merged to be the College of Engineering. So the name now has been changed to School of Electrical Engineering, College of Engineering, UITM Shah Alam. Okay. So when we talk about optimization technique, when we talk about artificial intelligence, so I would like to relate the element of optimization techniques, element of power system engineering into our Malaysian scenario. Before we go straight to the Malaysian scenario, talking on the research application with regards to optimization technique, let me begin with the Malaysian grid system. So our Malaysian grid system basically is subdivided into 3 components or 3 portions. The first one is Tenaga Nasional Berhad, which is Peninsular Malaysia Berhad, which is going to be responsible for the whole supply of Peninsular Malaysia, right from the top at northern part of Peninsular Malaysia to the southern part of Peninsular Malaysia at Johor Bahru. So we have the TNB, Tenaga Nasional Berhad. So TNB is actually our only own utility in Malaysia. Yeah, our only utility in Peninsular Malaysia. Let's go to the East Malaysia, which is in Sabah Electricity. They have a Sabah Electricity Sdn Berhad. So I'm sorry. So my house, my area now is having raining, so quite heavily. So I hope you still can get my signal. Eh? Okay, in Sabah, we have a Sabah Electricity Sdn Berhad. This is SESB. So SESB is owned by the subsidiary of Tenaga Nasional Berhad and State Government of Sabah. And the third one is Sarawak Electricity Corporation, SESCO, which is wholly owned by the State Government of Sarawak. And then when we talk about utility, we have a generation, transmission, distribution, and load. And you can see that right from the top of Peninsular Malaysia, we are connected to the southern part of Thailand utility board. We call it as EGAT, Electricity Generation of Thailand. So we have a connection between electricity generation of Thailand at Klong A, which is located at the bottom part of Thailand, and at the northern part of Peninsular Malaysia, we are connected to Klong A at Gurun Kedah. So when you go to Gurun Kedah, when you go to somewhere close to Kepala Batas area, you can see the DC transmission connecting from the Gurun Kedah to Klong A at the southern part of Thailand. And then at the bottom part of Peninsular Malaysia, we have also a connection from Johor Bahru to the utility board in Singapore. So in Singapore, their utility name is called as PUB, Public Utility Board of Singapore. So that is actually the general connection between Peninsular Malaysia to the top of EGAT, to the bottom of EGAT at our top portion, and at our bottom part of Peninsular Malaysia, we are connected to PUB Singapore. Okay, So let me share something with you which I have basically extracted from the source of Tenaga Nasional Berhad. So you can see that the utility for Tenaga Nasional Berhad, they have a demand of 30,060 megawatt, and in Singapore they have 20,889 megawatt, and at the eastern part of Malaysia we have a Sabah 1327 megawatt, and then we have a Sarawak, several places over there, and Brunei they have 806 megawatt. So this, I think this is the demand. Okay, at the bottom left you can see the pie chart. You can see the supply by several categories. The first one is gas, and then the LNG, the coal, the hydro, and others, and oil with distillate. And then we also have installed capacity TNB involving 55.6% for the whole Peninsular Malaysia. And for the IPP, independent power producer, so they basically contribute 44.4%. So if you can see in Klang Valley, they have the Segari, Malakoff, they have the Kappa Energy. I think their capacity is about 2,460 megawatt. And they also have Genting Sanyan Power Station. Genting Sanyan Power Station is located close to KLIA. Okay, so and then you can see that on the bottom right, you can see the capacity for Tenaga Nasional Peninsula installed capacity in megawatt 11,460 for final year 2012 until first quarter year 2016 is about 11,384 megawatt installed capacity for the whole TNB supply, and the total unit sold is about 28,471 gigawatt hour, and the total customers 9.0 million. This is billion, 9.02 million, and total employees is 35.9 thousand. Okay, and then total asset billion is 117.5 billion basically. Okay, so in this slide try to show you the interconnection. Or sorry, in this case is basically presenting about the IL Solar Sdn Bhd. So we can see that several projects have been carried out for the whole Peninsular Malaysia. We have IL Solar Sdn Bhd 10 megawatt, SBU Power Sdn Bhd, until the PBL Green Solar Sdn Bhd 20 megawatt, and Quantum Solar Park Kedah Sdn Bhd involving 50 megawatt as the installed capacity. At the bottom left, you can see from Perlis to Kelantan, the statistic from 2018 until 2020. These are basically the data recorded as of December 2018. So from the top to the bottom part of Peninsular Malaysia, you can see several power station. You can have LSS, and you can have Gurun Kedah, you can have Arau. These are all the installed capacity involving the photovoltaic plant for the whole Peninsular Malaysia. Okay, and then in terms of benefit, we can see that the benefit is talking about increasing renewable energy generation, and then we have distribution automation, we have the energy storage demand response, we have the improved grid reliability, and then you can see reduced non-technical losses. You can have electric vehicle integration. We have rising peak demand and aging infrastructure. So you can see EV is electric vehicle, AMR is advanced metering infrastructure, HFS is home energy management system, and BEMS is building energy management system. So some factors that can catalyze the adoption of smart grid include on increase in peak demand, aging conventional infrastructure, and the rising adoption of electric vehicle EV by household. So this is extracted from Bloomberg New Energy Finance 2012. It is running outside my house. I hope still can get my signal. Okay, consumers, amount of electricity used in kilowatt hour from 0 to 200. So we can see number of consumers in million 3.25, percentage 50.37%. And then when you go down, you can see the total of 6.45 million, total of 100% percentage lah. So subject to the 1.6% feed-in tariff from the consumer's monthly electricity bill. This is actually extracted from Tenaga Nasional Berhad pricing and tariff under the metering of TNB unit. All right. So this one I would like to share with you the connecting region among the Asian. You can hear thunder outside there. Connecting the region, the Asian Power Grid, Source Energy Malaysia Volume 6. This one is extracted from the Energy Commission, Energy Commission paper, Energy Commission magazine. So you can see we have connection from Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. So this is actually going towards the Asian power grid, involving all these neighboring country in Asian country. So when we talk about Peninsular Malaysia, Singapore extension, you can see that the first one we have Peninsular Malaysia and Singapore. That is a new extension has been happening there now. And then the second one is Thailand connecting to Peninsular Malaysia from Sadao to Bukit Keteri, from Klonge to Gurun Kedah, and then from Sungai Kolok to Rantau Panjang Kelantan, Klonge to Gurun second phase 300 megawatt. And then from Sarawak, we're also having connection with Peninsular Malaysia through the Bakon underground submarine cable. And then we also have Peninsular Malaysia to Sumatra. We also have connection from Batam to Singapore, Sarawak to West Kalimantan, Philippines to Sabah, and so on and so forth. So basically, we have 16 projects involving all the Asian country to reconnect or to connect all the neighboring countries around the Asian country, close to Malaysia. Okay, so this one is basically a simple connection to show the how it is connected from the power generation right to the consumer side. So in terms of general connection, we have the power generation. So in Klang Valley, we have 4 power stations close each other. The first one is Genting Sanjan Power Station. That one is close to KLIA. Then we also have Serdang Power Station that is close to Universiti Tenaga Nasional behind Unit 10. And we have one Serdang Power Station. And we also have Kanok Bridge Power Station close to UITM, close to Sungai Kelang. And we also have one big power station in Kapar Kelang. It is called as Kapar Energy. So that one is belong to Malakoff or Segari. Okay. So in general, the connection from the power generation to the load, you can see that to give you a basic idea, we have power generation will be connected to the transmission system. So for your information, in Malaysia, we have only one utility which is called as vertical power electricity supply. So in Malaysia, we have vertical supply because we have only one power, we have only one utility to manage all the electricity delivery to the whole consumer. Unlike other country, the system they are practicing is actually deregulated power system. When we talk the comparison between deregulated power system with respect to the vertical power system is that when you have a vertical power system, our supply, our tariff is consistent. Our tariff is constant throughout the year. But when you talk about the regulated power system, the supply and demand will be changing. So that means the electricity supply, electricity price is different depending on the supply and demand. But they still use the common transmission system in their country. One of the examples is Thailand. Sorry, not Thailand. Italy. You can see Italy, Japan, and then other developed countries. They are actually practicing the regulated power system. It depends on supply and demand. So the tariff is not going to be consistent throughout the year or throughout the day. So this is called as deregulated power system. We are having vertical power system. Okay, power generation will be connected to a generator transformer. This is normally connected or installed in front or at the outlet of the power station in Malaysia. So normally the power station in Peninsular Malaysia will generate like 20 kV. So this supply will be connected to the transformer in order to make sure that the supply level will be at par or compatible with the transmission line capacity. So then you have generator transformer over here. So it will be at par as 400 kV depending on the transmission line capacity. And then we'll have the common transmission tower here, transmission line. And then from the transmission line, we have another transformer over here. In this case, you are going to see that the transformer, the voltage level is stepped down from 400 kV into 275 kV. Maybe not exactly in Malaysia. This is normally the general topology or general configuration for the whole year, for the whole world. So this is the normal connection basically. So we have 275 kV. So in this case, you have a step down transformer, and then so they have the transmission capacity 275 kV, and goes to another transformer to step down the voltage level into 132 kV, and then they have the lower voltage distribution side. So for the low heavy industry, large factories, so they are going to utilize this voltage they tap from the transmission system. And then from this, you can have another transformer, which is going to step down the voltage level from 132 kV into 33 kV. And then from 33 kV, we will have another light industry medium factories, so which will normally require a bit lower voltage level. So they have another transformer here, which is going to step down from 33 kV to 11 kV. And finally, from the grid to the distribution system, they are going to have another transformer at the distribution side. So stepping down from 11 kV to 240 volt or 415 volt at the residential or our end user over there. Okay. When we talk about optimization process, when we talk about optimization process, so we need to understand that this is something which we need to do in order to make sure that whatever we plan is optimal. So at least you have 2 points from point A to point B. Yes, you have 2 points from point A to point B, and if you assume that you're going to get the best result, this is not exactly optimal. So when you talk about optimization, so the next follow-up, the next terminologies which you need to understand is objective function, fitness equation, control variable, and then problem formulations, and so on. So then we are actually dealing with real optimization process. But let's say you have only 2 points from point A and into point B, and then you're going to say optimal. That one is actually non-optimal. This is only called as empirical, the best among the supply, which is called as empirically done. Okay, so some parameters of process which we need to understand in optimization process. The first one is fitness equation. Let's say you have an equation y equal to 6x minus x squared. So the y is actually the fitness equation. But let's say you are going to maximize or minimize this equation, we call it as objective function. So please don't misunderstand the difference between fitness equation and objective function. Objective function is to minimize or to maximize or to optimize the fitness equation. So the fitness equation is actually a series of mathematical equation or a simple mathematical equation. That one is fitness equation, like I said to you just now. Let's say you have y equals to 6x minus x squared plus 3. So this is fitness equation. But the objective function is to maximize y of x. That is objective function. So the control variables will be the x. So I will later discuss with all of you here. So what is actually the meaning of control variables, and then what is the problem formulation? So problem formulation is basically the problem that we wanted to solve. So one of the examples in this case, let's say your objective function is to minimize the loss in the whole system. So why we need to do optimization? Because let's say you got voltage drop occurrence in the power system at the receiving end of a transmission line. Let's say you have V1 at the sending end, V1 angle delta at the sending end, and V2 angle delta 2 at the receiving end. So if V2 is going down below the nominal voltage, let's say maybe 5%. So we understand that the acceptable voltage limit to be operating acceptably determined by IEEE or IET or Suruhanjaya Tenaga is basically from 0.95 per unit into 1.05 per unit. So basically, let's say you got 100 kV. So the minimum voltage which is considered secure is 95 kilovolt, and the maximum one is 105 kilovolt. That one is considered within the working limit, which is 9.05 or 95% into 105% of the nominal voltage. So what happened is that, let's say your voltage is going down below 95% of the nominal voltage, so you are going to get V1 angle delta 1 minus V2 angle delta 2 divided by Z. So when V2 is going down to a low level, so we are going to get increment of current. So I goes on. When current is going up, that means I. Hello? Okay. That means the I square R is also increasing. So because P equals to I square R, so that means the whole system is going to experience high power loss in the whole system. So this is theoretically understandable. But what is actually happening when we compare to the analogy of practical experience? When the current is going up, that means the temperature will get rise. When the temperature is also rising, so if the thermal limit of the transmission cable is has been passed, that means if the temperature is higher than the temperature limit, thermal limit of the cable, so it can also cause power failure, it can cause insulation failure, it can cause fault, and so on. So those are basically the consequence when we have loss increment. So how loss is increased? Loss is increased due to voltage drop. So when voltage is dropped, that means current going up, so power is also going up. That's why the discussion of loss minimization is still very relevant in power system research. That is number one. Number two is voltage control. We want to make sure that the voltage is within the limit from 0.95 per unit into 1.05 per unit, which is 95% to 105% with respect to the nominal voltage. This is actually determined by the manufacturer of the cable, of the equipment, and so on. Then we need to do optimization process. These are two examples. The next one is cost of generation. Let's say you have several power stations in your place, in your neighborhood, or in your state. Let's say you have maybe one, you have in Tanjung Bin, Johor Bahru. You have one maybe in Batu Pahat. You have one in Minyak Buku, and so on. So these generators or this power station need to understand how much power to be generated, or how much power to be generated by each power station in order to minimize the cost. Otherwise, they simply generate. If they don't perform optimization process, the consequence would be they generate electricity but with losses. Okay, they mean they generate on loss. That is actually the second example which I can share with you. The next one is network scheduling. When we do network scheduling, we can schedule the power, we can do unit commitment, and so on. And these are some of the examples which we need to deal with optimization process. For example, let's say I would like to install a capacitor bank at one load bus at maybe Kluang Johor. So let's say Tenaga Nasional or TNB would like to install a capacitor bank at a load bus at Kluang Johor. They cannot simply take any value. Location has been determined by Tenaga Nasional, but the sizing need to be optimized. Then we need to do optimization process. So we need to do offline studies, we need to run the load flow, we need to perform optimization process until optimal solution. So that means the sizing which is going to be installed by TNB is the optimal value which will give the best result to TNB or to the utility. Okay, so when we have talk about optimization process, before we start implementing our optimization technique in power system, so we can do the pre-test, or we can do the running test. This one you can maybe publish papers in soft computing and simulation. So you can have several test functions. So the first one is f1 of x. You got 40 variables. minimum is 0. You got another equation here, f2 of x until f12. So you can have the limit here. The range is between negative 600 into 600. So you can go as low as negative 600 into as high as a positive 600. So these are normally the normal practice which normally being conducted by the artificial intelligence people, by the optimization people, in order to make sure that the optimization technique is workable or vice versa. If the optimization techniques are working well when we perform at these test functions, inshallah, we will be able to do the correct thing at our power system implementation. So these are some examples. We call it as test function. So let's say you develop a new technique to perform optimization process. So you develop your own one, and then you can test several functions. Then so this is suitable for publication in journal, in modeling, simulation, or apply and soft computing. Okay. 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 When we talk about application of optimization in power system, when we talk about automation in power system, the first one which we can do is optimal reactive power dispatch. When we talk about optimal reactive power dispatch, when we talk about optimal reactive power dispatch, that means we would like to optimize the size of the reactive power to be supplied by the generator part. This is actually supplying the capacity power, injecting reactive power in capacity mode at the generator. This one is called as optimal reactive power dispatch. That's number one. Number two, we are going to also, we can also determine, we can also do the optimization of transformer tap changer, setting optimization. In this case, we can do the adjustment of the transformer tap changer along the transmission line. When we do the tap changer setting optimization, we can basically modify the power flow along the transmission line. But this is basically not that significant too much. I mean, the difference is not that much because the variation of the minimum to the maximum range for optimal tap changer is very small, maybe from 0.75 per unit into 1.5 per unit. So therefore, the variation is not that high, but still can manage to improve voltage profile, still can manage to minimize the loss, reduce the current, and so on in the system. The next one is optimal economic power dispatch. This is where we learn in power system analysis, whereby we need to determine the power to be generated by each generator in the whole power system network. Let's say in 30 bus system, we have 6 generators: bus number 2, bus number 5, bus number 8, number 11, number 13, and so on. So we can do the optimization of these generators, how much power to be generated by this power, by this generator, so that the cost can be minimized or the transmission loss can be minimized. This is called as optimal economic power dispatch. The next one is optimal power scheduling, very close to this one. So we can have the scheduling of power of each generator, but you can also make them to commit all, or you can choose whether all the generators to be operating or vice versa. So this is very close to unit commitment. The next one, optimal capacitor installation, like I mentioned to you just now. Let's say we would like to install a capacitor bank. When you would like to install a capacitor bank at a load bus, this one is connected at the load bus. When we do the connection at load bus, that means we also need to determine the sizing of the capacitor to be installed at the load bus. Just now, this one at the generator bus, the transformer at the transmission line, power scheduling at the generator, capacitor at the load bus. So this is to determine the optimal sizing of the capacitor, optimal sizing of the capacitor to be installed to the system. Okay, next one, we can talk about optimal FACS devices installation. When we talk about optimal FACS devices installation, before that, FACS devices installation stands for flexible AC transmission system. So flexible AC transmission system is abbreviation to represent some devices which are quite flexible. So one of the example, so the devices are like static var compensator SVC. SVC is one type of FACT devices. You have UPFC, Unified Power Flow Controller. You have D-STATCOM. D is the distributed STATCOM static compensator. We can have the TCSC. We can have the D-STATCOM. We can have the SSSC, TCSC, and so on. All those are actually the types of FACT devices in power system. So when we do research in power system, we are looking the modeling of the FACT devices. But when you do research in power electronics, we are not doing the modeling in power system per se. We don't consider this to be the black box, but we will consider maybe the physical appearance, the transmission, the transient element of the devices in the system. What happened when we put them together and so on? What is going to be the response of the system of the current voltage and so on? Then this is actually in view of power electronics. In view of power electronics. Okay. After we have talked about the application of optimization in power system, let's talk about the objective functions. So the one we have several examples of objective function. The first one is minimization of total transmission loss. This research is still relevant these days. When you refer to the Elsevier science, you refer to IEEE journal, you still can see that people are developing new techniques in order to do the total transmission loss in power system. So then they still manage to identify the research novelty and so on. They can also combine or integrate the technique with maybe computational intelligence, with artificial intelligence, with power electronics, HVDC transmission, and so on and so forth. So this is the first objective function. The second one is minimization of generation costs. This one we can minimize the generation cost for the whole system, and then we can have the control variable and so on. We can also do the minimization of voltage stability index. In this case, they can have any index. They can use index developed by Professor Kessel and Glavish. They can have index developed by Liqui from the US. They can have index developed by me. They can have index developed by Prof. Azhar from UKM, Prof. Ahmad Bram from UM, and many other indices which have been developed in the power system environment. So the next one is maximization of minimum voltage in power system. When we talk about maximization of minimum voltage in a power system, that means we will look at only one value for the whole system. Let's say you got a 30 bus system, and then we can monitor either voltage at a bus or voltage for the whole system. So let's say you maximize the minimum voltage of the system. Let's say you got 30 bus, we can extract the value of the minimum voltage, and then we are going to maximize this value. So this one can also be considered as the objective function of the power system research. The next one is maximization of stability margin. So stability margin is actually the working area, the working margin from the base case condition until the maximum loadability of the system before a system does not manage to get the optimal solution. So this is called as diverse solution. Then this is where we can do maximization of stability margin in power system. These are normally referring either the capacity to be maximized in terms of the megavar or in terms of megawatt. Okay, so when you talk about increasing, sorry, I cannot see the title here. So this one is actually a slide to show that a system, a power system network, which is maybe in this case is 30 bus system, and then we have transmission from the transmission, and then we can have the distributed system. So you can see from the transmission to the distribution system, we can have several substations over there. We can have high voltage to medium voltage substation, and we can have here several DG. This is called as distribution network. You can have the medium voltage level. You can have the medium voltage level to low voltage level. They have another substation over here. So, and in this case, we can have the transmission tower. So from the transmission tower can be connected to the wind energy. So wind power station, this is wind power station, this is the solar energy and so on. So solar energy and wind energy can also be connected to the transmission system. On top of that, you can also have the low level voltage at our residential. So in this case, you can see voltage can possibly go down, and then current, when voltage goes down, it is actually caused by the current increment. When current is increased, so losses is also increased, and then this is going to experience unsmooth power delivery to the consumer. So that's why we need to do optimization process. That's why in TNB they have the CAD cam, the CAD bank. Maybe they would like to install at Orak Lempik, close to Banting there, and then they have places at Batu Arang over there. Yeah. Okay. Okay. When we talk about optimization process, we can have either single objective or multi-objective. 1 minute. So. Okay, when we talk about optimization process, we can have two categories of objective. The first one is called as single objective. Number two is multi-objective. So single objective, when we talk about multi-objective, that means single objective, that means we only interested into dealing with one problem to be solved. Let's say you can choose either, maybe number one, you can choose to minimize the loss. Number two, you can choose to minimize the cost. And then number three, you can choose to minimize the transmission generation. You can choose to minimize whatever. We call it as single objective function. So when you have single objective, we can have control or decision variables. We can have fitness function. We can have constraint equation. We can have equality constraint, and we can have inequality constraint. That is when we talk about objective function. So this objective function is actually valid for both the multi-objective and single objective. So when you deal with multi-objective, that means we are going to deal with several objectives together. For example, you have equation. Our objective is to minimize the loss and cost and index. So this one, all these three can be added together. This one is called as weighted sum technique. Weighted sum technique. And then number two, the quite popular technique is Pareto front technique. This is talking about minimum, maximum of two functions or more than two functions. So there is the difference between dealing with single objective or dealing with multi-objective function in optimization process. This is example of distributed generation. So you can see solar, you can see fuel cell, you can see central plant, you can see micro turbine, you can see wind turbine, and so on. So when we talk about distributed generation, we can have four types of distributed generation. We have four types. Type 1. Type 1 is categorized as DG, which only consider supplying the positive PG. That means solar, the fuel cell, we consider these two types of DG as type 1 DG. So this is type 1 DG. Type 2 DG is actually supplying positive Q. Positive Q. That means the supply, like wind turbine can possibly supply QG to the whole system. This is called as type 2 DG. Type 3 will be positive P and positive Q. That means the additional supply given by the distributed generation will be able to supply reactive power as well as active power to the current network. This one is called as type 3 distributed generation. And for type 4 distributed generation, we can have positive P and negative Q. That means the DG in this category will be able to supply the real power, but at the same time will absorb power. This is type 4 in the DG category. Okay, when we talk about the optimal solutions, so like I mentioned to you just now, we have loss minimization, control variable, voltage control, cost of generation. So these are all the objective functions. And then the scheme which you can do, number one is optimal reactive power dispatch. This is actually the problem formulation to be solved. Optimal power scheduling. So when we talk about reactive power dispatch, that means in your background study, we need to talk about the the modeling of reactive power dispatch, the power balance equation in loop flow, and then the control variables and so on and so forth, the fitness equation, objective function, and so on. So those are all the problem formulation which we need to consider in the beginning of the optimization process. Other than optimal reactive power dispatch, we can have optimal power scheduling, fact devices installation, transformer tap changes setting, and also distributed generation installation. So all these schemes will be subjected to the power system network, or will be performed to the power system network in order to achieve whatever objective we have outlined in the first place, or we have formulated in the first place. Okay, allow me to give a review on available optimization techniques so far. So the traditional one, we started with quadratic programming. So linear programming and sequential programming. Those days, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when people talk about quadratic programming, linear programming, sequential programming, they will involve a lot of highly mathematical equation. That is number one, first category. Then they move a bit in front. They have a snake algorithm. They have the random walk. They have the tabu search. Is still involved with the some mathematical equation with the behavior of the animals and so on. So you can imagine snake algorithm. So what it's trying to do, snake is moving in random. So the scientist or the computational intelligence has invented a technique to understand the behavior of the snake. So the behavior of the snake will be converted into equation, and they call it as snake algorithm. Snake algorithm. The next one is evolutionary programming, artificial immune system, evolutionary strategy, and genetic algorithm. So all these are basically population-based. So later on, I will explain to you what is evolution programming. And then this is the second category. The next one is categorized under the Swarm algorithm. They have the big colony optimization, multiverse, not multivia, multiverse algorithm, and colony optimization, Cuckoo search algorithm, Firefly, particle swarm, and Lion gravitational search algorithm, and so on and so forth. So these are some examples which you can which we can use in order to solve the optimization. But it is worth to mention to all of us here that all the techniques here are not to be generalized as the best to solve all problems. So of course they will have the limitation, they will have the scope of the study, and of course they will have the weakness and merit when we deal with the techniques over here. Other than that, we also have new optimization techniques. Number one is symbiotic organism search, water evaporation optimization. We also have whale optimization algorithm, galactic swarm optimization, ion motion algorithm, invasive tumor growth optimization, and so on. So you can imagine it. So the scientists, the mathematician, they invented by understanding the symbiotic organism search. Through the organism search, so through the randomness, they try to convert into the equations, mathematical equation, and try to solve power system problem or any other problems, as long as you can have the mathematical equation. When we deal with optimization process, something which we need to understand is that we must have equation. We must know what need to be optimized, what need to is going to be the control variables and so on. Then it can be applied in terms of optimization process. But unlike the artificial neural network, we need to have data to be generated. We need to have the historical data. We need to know what need to be predicted and so on. Other than that, fuzzy logic, we need to develop rules. You need to understand the membership function and so on. So those are the three subdivisions under the hierarchy of artificial intelligence, which you need to understand the distinguish, the difference among them. So evolutionary computation, fuzzy logic, and also neural network. So next one, we can also talk about salt swarm algorithm, queuing search algorithm, tree growth algorithm, and squirrel search algorithm. So you can see that the mathematicians, the computation intelligence people have invented equations from the understanding of the animals, understanding of the search, understanding of the bacteria, and so on. Then they develop new equation, call it as optimization technique. Okay. Other than dealing with single optimization technique, we can also deal with the integration of several techniques in order to solve the traditional method. Let's say one technique is very fast to converge, but sometimes the convergence is not dealing with the global optimum. They only stuck in the local optimum, so that's why they try to get a better search space. So that's why they combine maybe artificial immune system, particle swarm optimization, and chaotic local search. Let's say you have something like this. You have AIS plus PSO plus chaotic. Put it together into the evolution programming. So you can call it as chaotic immune swarm algorithm programming, evolution programming. Inshallah, this one is a good title for FRGS research grant proposal. So you combine together all the new algorithms. So you invent something new. You do the comparative studies. Inshallah, it's a good title for FRGS or LRGS, a part of small LRGS. Okay, the next one is combining the artificial immune system with chaotic local search into the symbiotic organism search SOS. So combining the AIS with chaotic local search into the SOS. So we can have a new technique. We call it as chaotic immune symbiotic organism search. So this is also a novel technique which you can try to think of, try to invent in order to identify your research novelty for those students who are dealing with this optimization process. Okay, I just want to share with you here some pictures which need to be appreciated. This one is evolution programming developed by Gary Fogel, David Fogel, and Dr. Lawrence Fogel. So Lawrence Fogel, I think this is the father. These two are brothers. Gary and David, they are brothers. So this is the father. I'm not sure which one is a big brother or small brother, but these two are brothers. They have a company in US called as Natural Solution in order to solve the breeding of bacteria in their company. And then they have mutation process based on Gaussian mutation process. We call it as operator used to breed offspring. They use Gaussian mutation technique. So this is the equation. And then the second example which I would like to share with you is that the particle swarm optimization process. So particle swarm optimization is actually developed based on the understanding of the school of fish or school of birds. So that means these two people, Russell Eberhard is actually an analytical engineer. Sit together with James Kennedy is actually social psychology. So these two people sit together, try to get the understanding, the movement of the birds, the movement of the fish, and they combine together. They call it as particle swarm optimization process, so PSO. So okay, then the breeding process is different. They have inertia, they have the personal influence, they have the social influence, they have the what? They have the velocity update, they have the position update, and so on and so forth. So this is actually the process to produce offspring, or the process to produce children in the algorithm. This is basically the general algorithm or the mechanics of particle swarm optimization. So generally, in most of optimization process, they have initial population. So in this case, they started with initialization process. They initialize the particle, they find the C1, C2, the CK, you can refer to the journal, and then you can calculate fitness. Just now, like I mentioned to you just now, let's say you have Y equals to 6x minus x squared. So the Y is the fitness. So what is the control variable? The X is the control variable. Let's say you got Y equals to 6x1 plus 6x2 minus x1, x2 squared minus x3 cubed plus 3. So x1, x2, x3, they are all called as control variables or control parameters or decision variables. But the fitness equation is the F or the Y, because the Y is actually the fitness equation. And then in PSO, they need to determine the value of the P best and the G best, personal best and the global best. And then this is the two parameters which they need to determine in the first place in order to get the updating process of the velocity and the position. And then they calculate fitness and so on. This is basically the particle swarm optimization process. Okay, this is a slide to show that you have a power plant connecting to a transmission tower. You have a substation in between. So, and then from there, we'll have a national grid. goes to the another substation. Let's say you would like to install a capacitor bank at any of the load bus over here. So we need to do optimization process. Okay, we need to take off the line, the data, and then we need to do the offline studies, and then from there we can give the results into the utility, and the utility can do the designing of the compensating devices so that they can solve whatever they wanted to solve in the first place. This is one example. This is one example involving power plants, large power consumers, and so on and so forth. This model is trying to show you the conceptual of DG location dependent on load model. When we talk about load model, we have this is single line diagram. This is this is a distribution system. Let's say you would like to install DGs over here. So DGs, again, we have several types of DGs. You got the fuel cell, you got the photovoltaic, you got wind turbine, you got synchronous generator. These are all examples of DG type 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? DG type 1, DG type 2, DG type 3, DG type 4. And then you would like to install DG at this location, for example. Let's say you would like to you would like the optimization process to give you the result for the location and sizing. Then we need to get control variables to determine the location and to determine the sizing. But let's say utility has known the location to be installed, the compensating capacitor or compensating devices. So we just need to optimize the sizing of the compensating devices. So that means in order to determine the sizing, you need to perform optimization process. Otherwise, let's say we simply choose any value available in their stock, there will be a possibility for them to experience undercompensation or overcompensation. When you have undercompensation, you install capacitor bank, nothing is happening. Voltage still goes down, and then loss is still high. That one is called as undercompensation phenomenon. But when you talk about overcompensation phenomenon, when you install a capacitor bank, let's install capacitor bank or PV or wind turbine, the voltage is going. Voltage has gone up to above 1.05. So this is something which we don't want. Because when you have over voltage supply, it can also disturb the appliances at our residential, at our premise, and so on. This is why also something need to be avoided. So that's why we need to have the limit. We call it as equality constraint or inequality constraint. That's why you need to perform optimization process. Okay. So before that, we can also have load model. Load model, we have constant load model. We have residential, we can have commercial, and we can also have industries. So these are all examples of optimization process involving DG installation process in our distribution system. So this is another example whereby you have a thermal power plant, hydro power plant, and then you have substation in between, and they are actually sharing the same transmission line. And this is the types of loads. Industrial loads, commercial load, residential load, and transportation load, right? And this is basically extracted from TNB, core business generation. So the generation mix, they have the hydro, they have the OCGT gas, and then they have the CSP oil and gas, gas and coal. So you can see that you have several loads. You have the base load, which is normally catered by CSP coal, and then you have the second one. This is the second category of the load, and then intermediate load, you can have the peak load. So peak load is actually here, which will require something to be turned on fast. So in this case, they will normally use hydro. They will normally use hydro to cater the peak load. Okay, this is actually a slide to show the trend from 1953 in Malaysia to 2010. When the Malaysia system established, okay, this is 1953, and then we started with 275 kV in 1970 Circuit Commission. Before that, before we have TNB, we have the LLN, Lembaga Elektrik Negara. So TNB is a corporate body of Malaysian government. But before TNB, for those who has not known about Lembaga Elektrik Negara, we have before TNB is Lembaga Elektrik Negara, LLN. So until 2010, they have launched a new Malaysian grid and distributed codes over here. So this is something which need to be followed by the utility and electrical practitioner in the whole Peninsula Malaysia. This is Source of Energy Commission. Okay, one example to be share with you here is actually example of economic dispatch. When we talk about economic dispatch, so this is the fitness equation. So this is one example. This one can produce one master student or maybe small FIB project. Yeah. So then when you manage to get the new novelty, then you should be able to get one research novelty for a master's by research student. This is the decision variables involved, the generators. This is the constraint. This is called as power balance equation. This is actually the equality constraint. This one is equality constraint. If we have the limit, this is the inequality constraint, and this is the objective function. So you can see the difference. So the cost is actually, cost total here is fitness equation. The whole thing, minimizing the whole thing is actually cost called as objective function, either to minimize or to maximize. So you need to understand the difference between objective function and the fitness equation. This is another example. When you deal with economic power dispatch, you can get the POZ, point of zone, prohibited zone, and then you can have here, this is prohibited zone. You can have the operating zone. This one is allowable operating zone. So these are all the areas which normally done by researchers in power system community when they deal with non-convex ED economic power dispatch problem in power system. This is another example in dealing with economic power dispatch, non-convex ED problem involving ED problem with POZ point operating prohibited operating zone. So you can get equation and so on here. So you can also have ED problem with VPLE production cost curve. So this is the equation. The equation look different. ED problem with VAF point loading effect. So VAF point loading effect. So this is actually dealing with the economic power dispatch. This is more dynamic in this case. Okay, we can also have VPLE. So when we have VPLE, so these are the decision variables, the constraint, and then the objective function, and so on. So you to understand the difference between objective function and decision variables. So some researchers, they call it as decision variables. Some researchers, they call it as parameters. Some researchers, they call it as control variables. Okay. So like the PLOS, PLA, and PLR, they are actually examples of fitness equation. So this is a simple example, and this is actually multi-objective equation. Multi-objective equation, you got F1, F2, and so on. So they got PLOS, but and cost. But they cannot simply put PLOS and cost like this. They need to put a coefficient of here alpha, maybe here alpha, here is 1 minus alpha. So the weightage will be determined. So this is acceptable in power engineering research. We call it as weighted sum technique. So the other one is basically called as Pareto front. So this is a technique when we would like to combine several techniques to become a new technique. You have symbiotic organism search plus evolution programming plus ARS. Then we can call immune commensal evolution programming, ICEP. So this is a technique developed by my ex-student, Dr. Muhammad Helmi from Unit 10. So after you have done this, you need to compare with respect to the traditional evolution programming, immune system, and organism search algorithm. So this is where when we can show the conceptual model between the power system. So you got a system here, you got a system network. So the system network will produce the control variable what need to be solved, either to control the total production cost and the total system loss. And this one will be sent to the power system control center. And then in this case, you got ICEP, the technique which we have developed. So the technique will require several variables, PG1, PG2 until DG1, DG2, and so on. So these are called as the random number generator. Conventional generating unit output, the PGN, location of DG units, and so on, if we would like to consider the location and sizing. So then they will have feedback, and then they are actually closing, they are close to each other. So between the control panel and the power system operator and the computation intelligence, they are actually dealing together very closely. Okay, this can be one of the examples of the scope of work for your research. So let's say you got 2 test system, IEEE 30 bus test system, 57 bus test system. So the title is Proposed Integrated DG Installation and ICP based ED for total production cost and total system loss minimization. The whole thing is one of the PhD objective. It's not this one is the whole objective. This is a part of the whole objective. So objective function is either to do total production cost minimization, or at the same time you can also do like total system loss minimization. So you can have two sub-coordinate system here, smooth cost function and non-smooth cost, and then you can have 2 test system, and then you can do the planning. For the this is good for the planning. Either you would like to install single DG, 2 DGs, 3 DGs, and so on. So this is going to show the breadth and depth of the research work. This is maybe for the second objective. First objective could be different, not this one. So this is actually example of the flow chart, which we combine between the evolution programming and the SOS. So the flow chart can become something like this. This is a flow chart for ICEP, ED, DG for total production cost. So you can see that the process involves cloning system, involve fitness calculation and some other operators, all the equation and so on and so forth, right? This is another example of flowchart of integrated ICEP, ED, DG for total system loss minimization. The first one is total production cost minimization. This one can be total system loss minimization. So this one can be one example or one dissertation title for masters by course. In education, we have one master by course. If you can solve this one, then it should be okay, good enough already for master by course dissertation. This is examples of the research. One smooth cost single DG installation. So result for single DG installation in 30 bus IEEE to solve the smooth cost. So we have the ICEP DG. This is a location. We got 3 locations. Bus number 9, bus number 5, and bus number 4. Okay, this is actually the 3 techniques we combine together lah. So we do the comparison. So ICEP ED, EP ED, and AIS ED. So that means academic dispatch using ED, academic dispatch using AIS, and this is the proposed technique ICEP. So when you do a new technique, we need to do a comparative study. Then you will be there to have the guns to defend that your technique is worth better or at par with other available techniques. So apparently in this case, the production cost is much lower, $332.06 per hour, and in this the EPED-DG have given or have shown a high cost over there. So this is basically the total production cost in dollar per hour. This is another example. This is an example for single DG installation for 57 bus IEEE. So you can see that ICEP ED managed to get the lowest cost as compared to ED, EP ED DG, and AIS ED DG. And this is when you have a case whereby you can install the 2 DGs into the system. So why am I presenting to you all these examples? Because I would like to share with all of you what can be done. When we do a master's by research or PhD research, so you need to have a complete breadth and depth in terms of the objectives, in terms of the getting the rich data, rich result, and so on. Then your research is going to be very rich. Then you can see that you have look at different angle when you solve one problem. So you can have single DG, you can have 2 DGs, you can have 3 DG. At the end of the day, you're going to be there to mention, okay, we have done the research involving 2 DG installation, 3 DG, maybe, or 10 DGs, and so on. This is example of installing 2 DG into a 57 bus IEEE for the purpose of total production cost minimization process in power system. Okay. So I would like to share with you, got another 15 minutes before question and answers. So I would like to share some examples with you. The first one is written by Dr. Siti Emily Jumahan from your faculty. Conversion intelligence based technique in multiple fax devices installation for power system security. In this case, she would like to talk about the power system security, and you can see that they have the unsolved region, and the result is going to be something like this, involving the TCSC and UPFC to be installed together in the system. So they got the three systems together. They got the three devices: SVC, TCSC, and UPFC, and then they do analysis and they do the she did the installation and see what happened. So you can see that the three graphs are being exhibited over there. So this is basically to show the cost function of the affected devices: SVC, TCSC, and UPFC. The second example, this one is published in I think in Spain. So the journal IREE IREMOS. This is actually journal published by Professor Santolo from Spain, from Spanish, Spain. So also written by Dr. Siti Emily Jumahat from UTHM. So she was my ex-PhD student many years ago, and she also deals something with this one, the modeling of the CSC, SVC, and so on. Second example, involving optimization and fuzzy logic. You can see that Dr. Zulkifli Abdul Hamid, he has published a paper in expert system with its application. So he developed an equation from FVSI, my original voltage stability index equation, and then he expanded the equation to become something else. So FVSI has received, I think, more than 300 citations for this one alone. So this one has been cited by many people. And in fact, if you Google Dr. Lee Kui from Texas A&M Medicine, he also used FVSI to do the study in voltage stability in his system. So this is the dealing with the optimal fuzzy inference system into the system, also talking about load shedding in power system. This is another example. This is a paper written by Dr. Sharifah Azma, my ex-student as well, from Unit 10, published in Ain Shams Engineering Journal. But this is a bit unique because she did a new technique, developed a new technique for solving the multi-objective problem, multi-objective optimization. Just now we have the single objective. This is single objective, but in this case we have the multi-objective. So she has index, also she has the loss as well. So the graph will be something like this. So this is we call it as Pareto. So you got the x-axis is FVSI, but the y-axis is actually the loss in the whole system. You got F2 versus SY. Just now I talk about min max, max min, min max, and so on. So this is published by Dr. Sharifah Asma from Unit 10. So she is now in Unit 10. Another one is new, recently published in 2021. This one is published in Springer Journal. This is IJEET, Journal of Electrical Engineering and Technology from Taiwan. The title is a non-convex economic dispatch problem with fine buff effect using a window-driven optimization approach. So published by Dr. Nur Azwan. Dr. Nur Azwan was my PhD student several years ago, and he employed wind-driven optimization approach. So for new student, if you just registered, maybe you can get ideas. How can we explore further? How can we use the invented new techniques to solve your optimization process? So this is example. This is another example. This is the recently published paper as well by Dr. Helmi from Unit 10, optimal placement of static bar compensator in transmission network for loss minimization and voltage division index reduction. So he combined between the voltage division index reduction, VDI, and the loss, and then try to solve using the static bar compensator process. So in this case, he did use an optimization technique over there. So it is good now for you if you can manage to get papers to be published with co-authors from other universities, because the MIRA score these days, they consider into the contribution of publication with other institutions. So publication with other institutions or publication with industries is actually a good trend these days, as required by Ministry of Higher Education. This is another example. This one is a paper published by my group in UITM, published in Bulletin of Electrical Engineering and Informatics. This is a journal. published in Indonesia, but these days is becoming rather tough to publish in this journal. Dealing with whale optimization. So whale is actually ikan paus. Whale optimization algorithm-based technique for distributed generation installation in distribution system. So this is whale technique, shrinking, encircling mechanism, and so on. So you can imagine from the behavior of the whale. So people try to convert the behavior of whale into mathematical equation and try to solve power system problems. So that is the beauty of our human brain given by Allah to think about the invented things to benefit the human being and the environment. The next one is gravitational search algorithm based technique for voltage stability improvement. So this is actually a paper published several years ago in 2018. So the idea is taking the understanding of gravity force. You know, the gravity force is F equals to mv squared over r. Even from F equals to mv squared over r, we can convert that into the application of power system problem optimization. So this is basically one of the examples available. And then this is another one published by Dr. Azwan during his PhD study many years ago. PSO-based oscillatory stability assessment by using the torque coefficient for SMIB. SMIB is single machine infinite bus. So in this case, Dr. Azwan was dealing with, Dr. Azwan dealt with the element of time domain equation, which is quite difficult as well, not like the normal losses study and so on. Okay, so the equation, the result will be something like this. So he did a comparison with MO, PIMO, that is proportional integration and so on. So he also published another paper in JEET, Taiwan. So this one is published in 2020, Swarm Intelligence Approach for Angle Stability Improvement of PSS. PSS is Power System Stabilizer and SPC based SMIB. Okay. These are some examples when we talk about fitness equation and objective function. So you can see this one is fitness equation, but this one is the objective function. Objective function must have the word here, minimization of something. So I mean this one is minimizing the L over here. So this is objective function, this is fitness equation. So something we should not confuse ourselves. Introduction to convex optimization for communication and signal processing. So published in IEEE. So this is one published in Elsevier, if I'm not mistaken. This one is the WI. This one is actually the fitness. The whole thing is the objective function in path optimization method for UAV aided relay broadcast communication system. So you can see that when you got knowledge in optimization, we can be very flexible to apply the invented technique or the proposed technique into solving problems, maybe not only in power system. We can also solve problem in high voltage. We can also solve problem in automotive. We can also solve problem in communication, telephone cellular system, and so on, as long as you know what to be optimized, as long as you know the equation of the mathematical equation to be the fitness equation, as long as you know the control variables or decision variable of the system. The next one example here is another example is written by a professor from India, energy efficient and delay constraint sleep periodic optimization for green radio communication. So you can see if you are coming from communication department, so you can also apply optimization process into solving the green radio communication optimization process. So you can, as long as you can have mathematics, then should be okay, right? This is chemical process. Even in chemical engineering, we can do the optimization process. So minimization, this is the objective function. This is the fitness equation. So please don't get confused yourself about the difference between the fitness equation and the objective function. And this is another paper published by Dr. Helmi. So this one is actually a paid journal, but very expensive. So this is Q1 journal, but very expensive. I think we need to pay like 8,000 or 6,000 like that in order to get published in this paper. But the paper must be quality as well. Yeah. So the problem formation is something like this. So objective function will be to minimize or maximize this CI/PI. Yeah? Okay. And then this is another paper published by Dr. Muhammad Hatta Hussein from UNIMAP. Yeah? Published in Scopus Index Journal, Modified Swarm Firefly Algorithm Method for Directional Overcurrent Relay Coordination. So you can see that just now we talked about power system, 30 bus, 27 bus, and so on. And even we can also solve optimization to do the optimization process dealing with relay, circuit breaker, and so on. As long as you can get equation, then it should be okay. I think one more minute. Okay. Okay, I think that's all for my talk today, Dr. Sharil. I will stop sharing. I would like to get back to you, and I would like to welcome any question from the floor, if any. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Ismail, for the insightful and highly informative knowledge sharing session on the optimization techniques and applications in power system research. Perhaps all of us, staff and students, are now better equipped in terms of knowledge and idea and ready to embrace all the challenges in our quest to conduct and conclude our research work. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we shall move on to a 30-minute Q&A session. If you have any questions, you may ask now. Don't forget to switch on the microphone and introduce yourself first before asking the question. Okay, thank you. Any questions from the participants?
Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam. Yeah, Doctor. Yeah.
Prof, I am a student from UTHM.
Yeah, silakan. Yeah.
My question is that in power dispatch scenario, which mode is more feasible, either static mode or dynamic mode?
Which one is more feasible? Economic power dispatch, static or dynamic? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Brother, when we talk about economic dispatch in power system, basically in power system, the economic dispatch is very broad. So just now I show you several regions. You got the economic dispatch, the basic economic dispatch. One is static mode, and then before I answer your question, brother, straight away, then we have the POZ, we have the RAM rate, and so on. You can limit the scope. You can limit the scope. When you ask me either the dynamic or static, you can do both. You can do both as long as your contribution for your PD is good enough. But when you deal with the dynamic, you need to consider the variation of the load demand. Variation of the load demand, that means you need to do the economic dispatch from hour 00 into hour 2400. That one is actually looking at the profile of the whole system. That is when you talk about dynamic economic dispatch. So they will have element of load variation. So maybe at 00, what is the power demand? At 1 o'clock, what is the power demand? And then at 12 o'clock in afternoon, what is the power demand, and so on. Then you need to do one by one for the simulation and for the economic power dispatch. That means it is going to be a bit more complicated when you deal with dynamic economic power dispatch, because you need to consider the load variation for the 24 hours in the whole day. But when you do only the static economic dispatch, you don't have to consider. You don't have to consider the dynamic behavior of the load. Dynamic behavior of the load. So to get back to your question, which one is better? Up to you. You can determine your scope. That's why you in your thesis you have the scope of work and limitation of the study. But make sure that your research novelty is good enough. You got 3 research novelty for your PhD, and for your breadth and depth, it is also good enough. So you can choose basically. So to answer you whether which one is better, they are all good, but you need to set a limit for yourself. So you need to discuss with your supervisor. Okay, but the difference is that you need to consider 24 hours. Then you can have the profiling and so on. That is my response about the question.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Any other questions from the participants? Okay, while waiting, maybe I can ask Prof one question.
Yeah, Dr. Sharil.
Okay, so Prof, is there any strategy or any tips that you like to share on how to sustain the level of productivity and enthusiasm for us to conduct the research from home, given the current situation in Malaysia now?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sharil. To maintain our energy, our patience during the COVID-19 pandemic these days, I think it is okay. It's still okay for us to survive, to maintain our energy if we can do research in modeling, we can do research in simulation and so on. But when you but if you do high voltage, maybe talking about during the measurement, diagnostic, and so on is a bit difficult. But alternatively, you can do the modeling to represent what is actually out there in the lab. Out there, then you can develop several techniques in order to solve. So, as a supervisor, especially, you should be able, or I myself should be able to give alternative to the students, so that student will not stuck there. MIA or maybe in the middle of the tunnel. So if they cannot go to the lab, because some feel they need to go to the lab to collect data and so on. But if things happen which is not predictable like this, I think objective need to be a bit diverted. Of course, that's okay for us to divert a bit the objective of the PhD research work. Then you can do modeling, we can do the technique development, you can do programming, you can do simulation, and so on. I think that is normal. I think when we discuss with other colleagues also at other universities, I think they do agree to have alternative to carry out our research currently. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. I think any other questions from the participants?
I think Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Okay, one more
Salam,
question.
Dr. Prof. Yeah.
Assalamualaikum, Prof. How are you, Prof?
Alhamdulillah, Prof.
I'm Druman Sumro, Prof. You know.
Yeah, I know you, brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
Prof, there was one slide. In one slide, you said that the two or more than two techniques can be merged.
Yeah, correct.
To get single even or multi objectives. So is there any base what we call classification or the tree that these are possible merging techniques are there, or it is up to the researcher?
Okay. If I can understand from the questions given by Prof. Dur Muhammad. So I think Prof. Dur is asking about merging the several techniques together. Yeah, correct. So the thing is this: my student normally will develop a new technique by doing the cascading or hybridizing and so on. Because the thing is that when let's say you talk about particle swarm optimization to solve a problem, and then when you talk about even recently they talk about biogeography, they talk about multiverse optimization. So when we try to use the current technique to solve optimization using the trilateral technique, sometimes panel to me it is not novel. That's why when it is not novel, so therefore when it is not novel, therefore we cannot claim it to be one of the research novelty in the PhD research work, because it is already there many years ago. Let's say you talk about particle swarm. Particle swarm has been developed by Albert and Kennedy, so it's already there. So when let's say our PhD is talking about using particle swarm to solve space, so many people have done it. So there is not much novelty or difficult for us to claim our research novelty over there. But when you when we manage to identify the weakness, when we manage to identify the merit of this technique or the limitation of this technique, and then combining with other techniques, so we try to get maybe better scope, better result in terms of computational time, in terms of accuracy and so on. That will become something which can benefit to our student. Then you can declare. So because I happen to be a panel, in MUHI. So let's say a presenter in LRGS, they need to present. Let's say they say, okay, I would like to use this one, to use this to solve this. So the panel will simply say, this one has been there long ago. This one has been there many years ago. Let's say PSO has been there maybe 20 years ago. Maybe NN has been there 20 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago. You just apply this, so there is not much research novelty. So that's why it becomes difficult. So to be in the safeguard, so that's why all my students are basically will develop something new. So the new thing can be the embedded, integrating. So which one you feel comfortable? So you can put some operators in the SOS into the original evolution programming. So you can call it as a new technique. And or you of course you need to make sure that you have studied the weakness of the current technique, the weakness of the SOS, the weakness of this evolution programming. So then we try to get the research element to be embedded into there in order to make it better than the traditional technique. Then that's why they need to do comparative study. They need to do with comparative study with respect to the traditional technique. Otherwise they just apply. If they just apply, so it's going to be very difficult to claim our research novelty, especially at the PhD level. Okay, at the PhD level. Because when you talk about, let's say people talk about Barnacle technique. Barnacle technique has been invented by somebody. So the Barnacle alone is actually there, maybe 5 years ago. But so how can you make it new? So either you modify the technique to make it better, your integrated technique needs to make it better, or to embed something to make it better with mathematical equation and so on. You change the breeding process and so on, then should be okay lah. So far, based on my evaluation experience and based on my discussion with professors from other universities in Malaysia, even from AI technique. So let's say we combine together, we integrate together. That one is something new. It is actually not wrong to use the traditional PSO. Not wrong to use the traditional evolution programming, but those techniques have been there many years ago. It's old technique, so it's not. No, there is no element of research novelty over there. That's why there is an urgency for us to make it better by doing something to the current technique, or even unless we invented our own new technique, you call it maybe Dur technique, then that's okay. Otherwise, all the techniques are already there. So that's why difficult to claim the research novelty, especially at the PhD level, Prof. So that is my response to your question, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Okay.
We have one question from Mr. I think Dr. Azwan Kamari. Assalamualaikum, Prof. I think he was your student before.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's from UKM. This is from UKM. Dr. Azwan is from UKM.
Okay. Hi.
Okay.
What are your views on new issues in power system research using optimization techniques that need to be focused on for the next 5 to 10 years?
On new issues in power system research on optimization technique that need to be focused on next 5 to 10 years. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Azwan from UKM. First of all, we need to read books. We need to read the latest journal. We need to there are some benchmark which we can learn from them. One of the important, before I answer directly a question from Dr. Azwan, so we can try to Google PSERC. PSERC stands for Power System Research Consortium, PSERC. This is actually a power system research consortium based in the US, in Wisconsin University. In this power system research consortium, they developed a new software. Not exactly many years ago has been developed. They developed a software called as MedPower. Now has been already MedPower 7.0, 7.2, and so on. And then MedPower has been Met Power has been used many years ago, and inside the consortium we have Professor Ian Dobson from Wisconsin University. We have Professor Ray Zimmerman. We have Professor Vijay Vital, the IEEE fellow, and then we also have many professors over there, which have deal in power system research. So from there we can see even they can share their papers, they can share their research report, they can share their next research to be done, and so on. Even they give you the thesis to read the papers, the journal, and so on. Very rich and very beneficial to us. That is number one. Number two, we can also Google to Professor Federico Milano. Professor Federico Milano is currently at Island University. It's not Northern Ireland, it's Ireland, IRELAN, the Island University. He did PhD under the supervision of Professor Claudio Canizares in Waterloo University, Canada. So he developed another software. We call it as PS80, Power System Analysis Toolbox. So he is also like a father in power system so in the world. So you can also Google that one. So when we get back to this one, to the question given by Dr. Azwan, I think the current trend which we can embed together with the traditional power system problem, other than like power voltage stability, and then unit commitment, like economic power dispatch. These are all the knowledge we need to be explored further. Need to be explored further. Like I mentioned to my students, a supervisor is like a tree. Supervisor is like a tree. You got all the ranting, the leaves, and so on. One of the leaves is actually the title of your PhD student, right? So as the main tree, to have all the many leaves and so on. So you need to be creative, in a sense that maybe because you want to make sure that your students are not going to repeat the same research again. Okay, you're not only changing the shirt or changing the baju or whatsoever. So we need to integrate between the dynamic and static. There is one possibility. We can integrate between the power system static and the power quality. We can also deal optimization with people now. Professor Zainal Salam in UTM Johor Bahru, one of his students, Dr. Azlan from UITM, he is now doing the MPPT optimization using the particle swarm. That means the era is there. The era is involving quite gradual, actually, slowly. We can integrate between power system and power quality. We can integrate between power quality and power electronics, and we can also integrate between the dynamic. And on top of that, we can also think of normally getting different scenario. So people now talk about DG installation in the economic power dispatch. People think about contingency analysis. You got one out. People think about the effect of weather into power system forecasting and so on. So everything can be figured out basically, Dr. Syahril, Dr. Azwan. So maybe, but the thing is that you need to read papers. What is going on to be very, very latest these days, not only looking at the traditional power system problems available in Granger book or maybe in Hadi Sadat's book or Peter Stevenson's book. So we have to go beyond that. We have to go beyond combining the AI with the weather, something not technical. And then maybe the asset management. So all those, maybe you talk about cascading collapse, you talk about nation scenario, talk about weather effect and so on. So all those can become one of the acceptable component to be embedded into the traditional power system research. I hope I answer questions given by Dr. Azwan.
Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam, brother.
My name is Umar Abu Bakar Saleh.
Yes, brother Umar Abu Bakar Saleh. Yeah.
Is a student from UTHM.
Yes, thank you.
I want to ask a question, Prof. Prof, what is the impact or influence of FACT devices implementation on the performance of the distribution network integrated with other renewable sources?
What is the impact? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Brother Omar Abu Bakar Saleh. So if I can understand from the question given by Brother Omar, so he did ask about what is the impact of FACT devices into the distribution system. So number one, before I answer directly your question, you need to ask yourself, what is actually which type of fake devices you would like to choose. So fake devices based on the literature, we have SBC, we have the STATCOM, we have the DSTATCOM, we have the TCSC, and then we have the TCSC, and then we have the UPFC, and so on. When you talk about SBC, you are installing the static var compensator at the load side. So the impact is very straightforward. When you install SBC into the distribution system, and then you do the optimization process, then you can basically reduce the loss and look at the limitation of the SBC. And then you can also, this is something real, because many people have done research on SBC installation on the distribution system, and then the impact is reducing the loss, minimizing the loss. At the same time, it can give reduction of monetary saving to the utility. That is number one, Brother Muhammad Omar Abu Bakar. Number two, TCSC, tensor control static compensator, is normally installed at the transmission line, but the impact is not that high in terms of dealing with loss, because let's say before you install the capacitor, before you install the TCSC into the system, it is actually, maybe let's say your power is 10 megawatt, because the power losses in the distribution system is very small, maybe 1 or 2 megawatt only. Unlike the transmission system, the power losses is very big, maybe 32 megawatt and so on. In distribution, very small, 1.06 megawatt. So 1.06 megawatt, and you install TCSC into the system, impact is not that significant, because the power flow will be adjusted based on the TCSC variation, TCSC sizing, and so on, but still can manage to improve the power, but not that good as compared to SBC. So other than that, you can also have UPFC, Unified Power Flow Controller. Unified Power Flow Controller is a combination between the combination at the transmission line at the load bus. So you got one load bus, let's say bus 3. So you install the shunt component at the load bus, and then the series component at the transmission line. So in the modeling of your optimization technique, so you will have two variables, X1, X2 for this one. So each unit of UPFC will be translated into 2 variable X1, X2. That is for sizing. But for the location, you have another X, which is another control variable, so becomes 3. So let's say you would like to talk about installing 3 UPFC. So if you would like to implement optimal sizing allocations, so 3 times C, you will have 9 control variables to be solved in the problem. So the impact is also good for UPFC. Maybe in terms of cost could be a bit expensive. So that was something practical which you need to also consider. So that's why you need to perform very comprehensive literature study, so that you will be there to make sure that your system is achieve what you have planned just now. Yeah? Do you still have time, Dr. Sharil?
Yes, we have, Prof.
Okay, yeah. I am open for any other question from the floor, please.
Any other questions for the participants? So, Prof, maybe I can ask while we wait.
Yeah, yes, Doctor.
So, can you please? I think most of the participants are the postgraduate students.
Yeah.
Okay, so probably you can help to motivate them. Okay, probably some of them are feeling a bit demotivated. I do not know, and you know how to continue their research in this current pandemic. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sharil. Okay, Dr. Sharil is asking about any possibilities on advices, suggestions to students. Yes, I understand that. I also got students, many students. So we are equally tired actually. So we all have very less sleep from 8 o'clock until 5 o'clock midnight and so on. Only one thing, students, once you have step your feet into the PhD journey, the scholarly journey, so you don't you cannot turn back, you know. So you cannot turn back. You need to continue. People said until your last tears or last blood and so on. So make sure you, let's say you are not from Malaysia, you may be from Saudi, you may be coming from Middle East country. So make sure that you need to be very you need to be very consistent. You need to be very patient to do your research, because you need to make sure that you want to get your PhD. That's it. You want to get your PhD, whatever it is, whatever comes, you need to get your PhD, because it is not worth it. Even you just want to get capital D, small r, and full stop. Okay? So now, from now on, you can put small r, small d, capital R, full stop in front of brother Abu Bakar, example. So to motivate yourself, so you are now small d, capital R. After you have got your PhD, you can put capital D, small r, full stop Abu Bakar, like that example. Okay. So to maintain your energy, to maintain your spirit, you need to be always positive. If you think you are so tired, you are so exhausted, you need to remember that Dr. Shahril even more exhausted than you do, you know. The PM, Dr. Associate Prof. Dr. Rosli, the Dean is even more exhausted than you as a student. Let's say you feel you are so tired, you feel you are so demotivated, you need to break the gap in front of yourself. You need to break the big wall in front of yourself, because it is, PhD is worth, you know. PhD is actually really worth. When during the graduation, the chancellor of the university say that, okay, with my power, so today I would like to award you the PhD, masters, bachelor degree, and diploma to the list available in the book. So you will cry during that time. So you need to look at the positive way. So even to get your PhD, you need to think of all your friends who have got their PhD. You don't turn back and try to imagine people who have failed the PhD or incomplete their PhD. It is actually difficult. Are you ready not to get PhD? That is one thing. So that's why you need to be very strong. If you think you are so tired, I am very tired actually. I'm very tired. Today I got meeting, yesterday I got meeting, and in fact, from 8 o'clock until 12 o'clock midnight, and your supervisor maybe went to the bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. And when you say that you are very exhausted, you need to imagine that your supervisor is even more exhausted, because your supervisor, let's say like Dr. Samsul Aizam, Associate Prof. Dr. Samsul Aizam, he got 10 PhD students, so you can imagine. So if you are tired, he is having more than 10 times tiredness as compared to the student, because he has to make sure that the students are not repeating the same thing again. Okay? Students are not repeating the same thing again. They want to make sure that he has to make sure that the students are doing something different, and he has to read every single thesis of the student, right? That's why. So you can imagine. But positively, PhD is really significant. Even it's only a piece of paper. To get it actually, but you can move further. You can fly further once you have got your PhD. I'm not sure whether I give so many talks. Even this semester, I give 4 talks to become a supervisor to new PhD holders and so on. It's not that easy to be a supervisor. If you say you are very exhausted, your neck is very stressful, your supervisor actually even more stressful than you do. Am I right, Dr. Shahril? Correct, Dr. Shahril? If you but you got no choice. Just go for it. Just orang kata dalam bahasa Melayu, you just go and let it be as usual, but you don't stop 40 consecutive days. Okay, I also got my students, sometimes they feel demotivated, sometimes the supervisor give you a torch and then they are missing in the middle of the tunnel, they don't know what to look for and so on. So, but one thing, you still can get your PhD with 4 syarat, 4 conditions. I always remind my students. Number 1, This is actually culture in knowledge journey. Number one, you need to taat to Allah. Number two, taat to Rasul. Number three, taat to your parents. And number four, respect your supervisor. As long as you can still respect your supervisor, as long as you can still respect the system at the university, inshallah, you still be able to get your PhD. Okay, but if you cannot respect your supervisor, if you cannot respect the system, that's it, full stop, because you are not in the correct word maybe. But once you got your PhD, you can fly further. You can. I'm not trying to say you can become professor, but you can become professor one day. I talked to my student. He is 45 years old. You know, last night I got meeting with him until 11:30 in the late night. So you can imagine, supervisor there to do that. Supervisor there to have meeting with the students. Supervisor there to act their next and so on. So no worries, brothers. You just do it. You get it done. Submit your thesis. Inshallah, you get your PhD. You believe in me. But believe in me, Allah will always send you something as the challenges, as the bitterness, sweetness. Normally not sweet lah, very bitter actually. PhD is always very bitter, not sweet. You ask Dr. Sharil. Dr. Sharil, I don't know where he did his PhD, but it's very different. You go to UiTM, different. You go to UTHM, different. You go to other university, different experience, different things and so on. But do it until your last spread, until your last blood. People say until your last blood. So, but don't stop for the consecutive days. But remember, respect the taat to Allah, taat to Rasul, and then taat to your parents, and respect your supervisor and the system. If you cannot respect the supervisor and the system, I understand you're all young blood. You know, sometimes you try to be, you know, why am I not given this one? Why am I not given this that one and so on? No, follow the system, respect the system. Inshallah, don't worry. I always mention to my student, because last to produce one PhD graduate it is actually not that easy. Very solid and then feel very weak, but you need to wake up. Maintain your discussion with your supervisor. Let's say you got stuck in between, you don't know what to look for. You just communicate with your supervisor, Prof, Doctor, I think I'm in the middle of the tunnel. I don't know what to do now. So supervisor, sometimes I also give talk to motivate students and supervisors, because supervisor is actually a good listener. You think easy to become a supervisor? It's not that easy. So even you one day when you have got your PhD, you will become a supervisor. Maybe you are a lecturer at university in your country. So you need to experience all this one, because like Nabi Ayub every month he will get sick, you know. So one day he said that, why am I not getting sick this month? Maybe Allah does not love me. So actually it's not that easy, because Allah would like to uphold or to lift your martabat to a higher level. So that's why don't stop, continue. No worries about GOT. If you can get GOT, alhamdulillah, no problem. If you can get Q1 journal, alhamdulillah, it's a rahmat. But if you get Scopus, it's also okay, no problem. Don't feel too small, don't feel inferior. Your friend got Q1 journal 3, Q1 journal, you got only 2 Scopus, no problem. Yang important thing is you got your PhD. You get back to your country, you can serve your country, you can give back to your university or your sponsor and so on. I'm not sure whether my experience, my sharing can motivate you to wake up or whatsoever. But I always mention to my student, you are very tired. Yes, I know. I'm even more tired than you do. Sometimes you cannot turn your neck, you know, your supervisor cannot turn your neck because sitting in front of the laptop for maybe 20 hours, maybe 18 hours. So those are the things, brothers, Omar and so on. Dr. Syaril.
Okay, thank you for the wonderful advice to our students. So I believe the last question conclude our 30-minute Q&A session, yeah, Prof?
Yes.
So I think we can move on to the next agenda. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a photo session. Now, thus I would like to request all of you, the participants, can you please switch on your camera and of course put on a smile. Okay, I'm now handing over this photo session to Miss Afika. So Miss Afika.
Thank you, Laili, Dr. Laili.
Okay, I'll take the photo right now.
Okay, please look at the camera.
Okay, and one. I'll take the first part. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I will go for the second part. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And the last part. Okay, last part. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, done.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, looks like we have come to the end of our knowledge sharing session. Once again, on behalf of the faculty and the organizing committee, I would like to extend our gratitude to Professor R. Dr. Ismail Musirin as our speaker and to all the participants for listening until the end. See you again in our future knowledge sharing session, inshallah. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And stay safe, everyone.
Thank you much, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Syaril.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Syaril.
Thank you.
Thank you. Itu Dr. Mano.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Azman.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much.